Hello, good people, and welcome to the Amateur Hour. My name's Justin,
My name's Tyler.
I'm the one called Junior.
and today's sponsors are EBXYA and Adam Stone. Well, today is a special episode because Junior is not here. We do apologize for that. He's hung up, if you will. Ooh. It's a
But
pun.
there's a big but there.
Yes,
But we have a little someone special.
yes, we have a new member, if you will, a wonderful man that we've actually had on the podcast before, previously on season 1, exclusively on YouTube. So if you didn't hear it, that's okay, because you're gonna get reintroduced to the one and only Austin. Welcome, Austin.
Hey. How you guys doing?
Doing well. I mean, kinda. Under a lot of pain, but that's okay. Neither here nor there.
Sometimes
doesn't
pain's
matter.
a good thing, right?
Yeah. It depends on the pain, I guess. But welcome back. This is absolutely fantastic to have you here. Austin's going to be our good old fourth, and we're going to see how things work, yeah. Testing the dynamics, if you will. We did have, it was 3. We were going to keep it to the 3 dynamic, but you know what? I was like, I always want to have that sort of consistency for our listeners out there. So, of the 3 dynamics. So we brought Austin in. And hopefully we'll have the 4th dynamic next week for you guys. But we'll see. Life's life's got you hung up sometimes.
Yeah.
But with that said, I mean, it's good to have you back, Austin. It feels nice to hear your voice.
I'm excited. It was a lot of fun last time, and I'm excited to do it on a more regular basis, hopefully.
I don't know what to say. I mean, we could talk about some recent things that just have been happening to all of us. I mean, I got my tooth ripped out. It was pretty. I know it's a way to dive into it, but it happened. It really happened. I got the good old tooth ripped out. Let me explain the story rather than repeating that I got my tooth ripped out. Anyway.
Jeez, set the scene. I want a full scene of this now.
So I go to the dentist. First time since I was 6 years old. Okay, so I was a bit nerve-wracked. Because it's been a while, right? You don't know if you got cavities. Everyone's telling me, like, oh, you think you don't have cavities, but wait until you go. You'll have... And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, do I? I'm like, I brush my teeth, I floss, I mouthwash every day. Like, what more do you people want from me? So I go, right? Nervous as all heck, all by myself. First time, in a long time. And sit in the good old chair, get a checkup. You know what? I gotta brag a little bit. Doctor says, you got some good teeth there. No cavities at all. Perfect. But here's the thing. I had a wisdom tooth in my bottom right jaw that was growing in crooked. So it was like, rather than it being just perfectly horizontal, it started growing vertically. And what it would have done is, if it would have grown further, it was going to crack my other tooth right next to it. And or just trap a bunch of gunk in there, and I would have, then I would have cavities. And I kept catching my cheek in my tooth. I kept biting it like I was a rabid animal. So they said, let's get it removed. And I was like, huh? They're like, yeah, we'll schedule it and get it removed. And I had like so many questions. And I have also 2 top wisdom teeth. I don't know if you guys have yours in yet, but I had my top 2 as well. And he wants to rip those out. And I was like, no, thank you. Like, no. And so I just said, just the bottom one, I think will be good. And anywho, I go in the process. They put the anesthetic in your like freaking jaw. They grab a freaking a long shot and they put it in your jaw, and that's the most disgusting feeling in the world. They say, "Oh, this creep, it's supposed to numb you before we put the shot in." You still feel everything. It's like feels like someone took just like their nail and just like drove it into your jaw and then like just started wiggling it around. It's disgusting.
Oh God.
And then they put it in, and like you're supposed to be numb. I just felt a tingling sensation. I didn't even get numbed from the numbing the first time. Then he comes in, he's like, "All right, we're all numbed up. You should be feeling like your tongue a little heavy and like your lip a little. It should feel like it's like puffed out or something." And I was like, "No, I feel fine." And then he's like, "All right, let's check in." Then he like pokes you with the shot, and he's like, "Do you feel that?" And you're like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right," and then he puts some more, and then he goes, "You feel it there?" And you're like, "Yeah, it hurts." And then he's like, "All right," and he pushes it in there and just freaking gives you more anesthetic until eventually you don't feel anything. And then they get in there with their tools and they start freaking buzzsawing things out. I don't know. Sounded like the Menards was in my freaking mouth. And they cut it up. They cut your tooth up and then they just try and rip it out. So now when the guy was trying to rip out my tooth, he started like pulling on that tooth. And like his hand was literally, like when you're trying to like pull the top off of like maybe like a bottle or something, or like a jar of pickles or something like that, and like your hands just like shaking and you're like just trying so hard to turn the thing, you're like, "Son of a gun." Like that's what this guy was doing to my tooth. Like he was like, his hand was like shivering with how hard he was trying to pull out this tooth. And it was freaking me the heck out because he was like also putting a bunch of pressure on my jaw. I was like, he's going to pop my jaw out. It's going to be fantastic. I'm like, I'm going to get up after the surgery and my jaw is just going to be hanging off my mouth like this. I was so afraid how hard this guy was pushing. And anyway, eventually he pulls it out. And he's like, "It's all good, whatever, in the hood. Go home." And he shows me the tooth. And apparently most teeth have 2 roots. This one had 3. So that's why it took him so long to pull it out, because it was just that enrooted in my jaw. Which is, I guess, is a good thing, right? My teeth's not going to fall out right away. But for him, it was a bad thing. Anyway, nastiest experience ever. I'm under a lot of pain right now. So if I do slur, guys, please forgive me. It's because it hurts, all right? And, yeah. Have you ever necessarily gone through a painful situation or crazy surgery like that, Austin?
Honestly, no. I need to get one of my wisdom teeth taken out. I've got one on the top left that's growing like it's like growing normally, but then like tilted to the left a little bit, so it kind of rubs up against my cheek, kind of like what you were talking about almost. I don't bite my cheek. It does get annoying sometimes, and I was supposed to get it taken out last December, and I've been putting it off because I do not want to deal with it. I'm like, nope, I don't like pain. I'm good. I'll just hang on to that bad boy for a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's rough. I'll tell you that much. It's absolutely rough. Like right now, my jaw feels just really tight, And if I touch my cheek, it's sore still. It feels like someone slapped the freak out of you. Like they just backhanded you. You just wake up, you're like, "Why did you slap me?" I feel like at night a ghost is just absolutely just punching me in the face, and I don't even know. Like he's just like hitting me. He's like, "You feel this? You feel it? Want to get up now?"
That just reminded me of a movie. Have you guys ever seen Remote? I think that's the name of the movie.
Remote? Are you thinking of Click with Adam Sandler?
Click. Yes.
Oh, yes.
And he like kicks someone in the ball, crap out of him, and then he'll play it, and then all of a sudden the other guy's like, "Oh," like, why is it hurt?
That's what it feels like the ghost is doing to me. Like, slapping the hell out of me. while I'm sleeping, and I get up and it's just pain. I have another wisdom tooth. So my top left one is actually it's grown a little bit further than it should because there's no tooth under it. So it kind of grew a little bit longer. And before I used to not feel it. I guess because I wouldn't close my jaw all the way because this other tooth in the back. But now, recently, that I've been only eating on my left side, I've noticed that it's actually now this top wisdom tooth on my left side has been grinding on my jaw. And now,
Boy.
now I could feel the pain on my left side from the tooth above. So I'm like, oh please, no, I'm not removing it. No, I think I'm just gonna let my jaw callus back there, so that way it just gets used to it. But
Let's get a mouth callus.
yeah, because I really don't feel like getting another tooth ripped out after this experience. I think I'm good. Like,
Well, you also gotta think everything in there's sensitive right now, so
yeah,
it might be like that because it's not healed.
and Thanksgiving's coming around the corner, of which we are going to mention ahead of time. We might not have an episode right after Thanksgiving. We might release that weekend, but I don't think we're going to have an episode, or maybe not on that weekend either. I don't know. I'll let you know that weekend we're not going to be recording because I know we pre-record, so we want to let you guys know ahead of time. We might not have an episode up for that Thanksgiving weekend and that weekend after. So it'll be our break. I mean, I think we deserve a break, right? We've been posting every weekend for you guys. I currently have to edit one episode and upload it so that way we can make it on time for Sunday. If not, it for sure it's going to be at Monday. You can just have a double episode on the week, okay? It's
Like break? What is a break? You don't deserve shit.
yeah. I mean, college life is it's a lot. I did a 6-page paper this week, which is why I haven't been in a rush to edit the episode. So, and then new Call of Duty came out, so it's like I really want to take a second to relax. I've just been under a lot of stress and got my tooth ripped out. Like, there's a lot that I just you got to push yourself, right, and motivate yourself. But I just haven't really had the time to get to that episode. So I do apologize, everyone. Okay, I'm human. But we've been giving you guys an episode every week, and I want to thank you for that. But, yeah, any other painful, like, have you ever gone under surgeries, Austin, or nothing?
I haven't had any surgeries. I broke my foot while I was in high school, and that it swelled up. It looked like I was carrying around a baseball under my skin. That was kind of painful, trying to walk or anything like that. But probably the most painful thing I ever did was when I was in high school. I was playing baseball and I tore my UCL. It's just a ligament in your arm, and I was a pitcher. And it was rough. It didn't really hurt as bad at the time, but afterwards, if you try to throw or anything, it's just like absolutely horrible feeling. It just feels terrible. And I was a stubborn young boy, and I was like, I'm gonna finish this season no matter what. Go through the pain, and
I actually broke my foot too. Just it was kind of funny. I was walking to my neighbor's house and I was helping him with something, and I ended up falling through his deck. So I don't know what bone it is, but it's the one that's on the outside of your foot, the little ball before your ankle.
Mhm.
I cracked that off. So it wasn't really like a bad break, but it did instantly start to swell and start to hurt. But the thing was, I rode a little like small dirt bike over there. And when I got over there, I broke my foot. I'm like, ow, this hurts. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go home and chill for a little bit. So I'm kick-starting this bike with my broken foot. And obviously this is before the pain, right? And I get home and I sit on the couch, and like from the moment I sit down, all of a sudden it just starts hurting more and more. And I took my sock off and my foot's like blowing up, and I'm like, oh God, I actually did something. And then my brother comes up and he's like, hey, how's your foot? And he smacks it.
oh, Oh no.
Yeah. He smacked my foot. And then I'm like, now it really hurts. So my mom's like, okay, well, we're going to have to go to the emergency room because you might have broke it. So we go there, they take an x-ray. It wasn't a bad break. Like I said, the little, like, I don't know what this bone is called, but it's the little ball thing that's on the outside of your foot, a little bit in front of your heel. And I cracked it off. So it was basically just like jiggling in place, I guess. And then it swelled up, you know, that part of your body swells to hold everything together. So it was swelling up, but it was mashing it together to where, like, when I walked, it would grind and it would hurt so bad. So then they put me in a boot and everything. And then I went to an actual foot doctor and he's like, oh, yeah, everything's good. It's all in the right spot. We're just going to keep you in this boot for a little bit longer until it starts to heal. And then you can start to walk again. So it wasn't terrible. I did end up having to get one of those scooters. Have you ever seen the one where you like put your knee on and you let your foot hang and then you scoot around? I got one of those for a little bit. And then I went back to the doctor and he's like, okay, can you stand on it? So, and he's like, he's not even saying like, okay, you've healed this much, you should be able to blah, blah, blah. He's just like, can you stand on it? And I'm like, I can, because, you know, when I had the scooter, I was like, I can't do anything. I don't want to sit here and do nothing. And everyone kept on yelling at me like, dude, you need to rest. Your foot needs to heal. My mom especially. But I would just like stand up and hobble across the room or scooter across the room. Or I'd be playing with my little cousins, like scooting laps around them and doing stupid stuff. So once I got to the doctor, he's like, can you stand? And I'm like, well, yeah, I kind of have been. He was like, oh, okay. So I don't know, walk across the room for me. So I walked across the room, and then, you know, it hurt a little bit when he was going. So then he gave me a new boot, and the new boot had airbags in it. So you put your foot in, and then you pumped it up until everything was tight. Man, that boot, I could walk wherever I wanted because it held everything in tight and it couldn't move. So that was great. And then the process was like that for another, I don't know, month and a half, and then I took the boot off, and now it's like, I don't know if you have this problem with whatever you broke, but when it's cold or when I move my foot a certain way, I still get pain.
I broke there's like a little bone in like the middle of your foot. I can't remember what it's called either, but I broke that. So there's really, like, they really can't do much about it. I had to stay on crutches and like didn't wear shoes and stuff. And it was like, said we give you a boot, but it's really not going to do much for you because it's such a small bone and there's not really much room for it to move around. So I just basically like triple socked it and went to school with crutches on. But the thing that sucks is if I walk around for a long period of time, like, you know, you got a girlfriend or mom wants to go shopping, and so you're out for like 2 to 3 hours walking around stores. About hour 1.5, my foot's screaming at me. So it's not the only thing. And cold weather does affect it a little bit. It's like today, it's like, I think it's in the 40s here, and it's a little. Walked outside, and I was like, oh God, I'm not doing anything outside today.
Right? Yeah, that's how mine is. Like when it's a nice summer day and I do a lot of walking, I do start to feel it. But it's when it's cold, it's like, no, please stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a doozy. The max I've broken bone that I've had, I broke my nose like 3 times. So it was kind of rough, but that's cartilage that's broken. So I don't necessarily get pain in my nose, but yeah. I think that would suck if you'd get like the pain, like, what's it called, in your nose, like you guys are getting, just because it's cold.
It's cold outside, so your nose is just an excruciating pain.
You're just like, my nose. Like,
I wasn't even thinking about my nose. I broke my nose when I was really, really young, and we didn't even know it was broken, so it kind of healed a little wonky.
yeah, mine healed fairly wonky too. Like they had to obviously snap it into place, but it was like a lot of times like it just I don't know, it healed like where it just made my base of my nose a little bit more wide than it would have been. Just because of just the two breaks. Like my brother kicked me how you know is like my brother kicked me in the face. That's how I broke it once. And then my cousin punched me in my face and I broke it a second time.
Ow.
My brother kicked me in the face.
Yeah.
That's right there.
It was when we were kids. I was tickling him on his foot, and you know, it's like they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop, you know, I'm gonna kick you." And well, he actually did kick me right in the face, and I just fell off the bed because like he was on my mom's bed or whatever because we were hanging out in her room. And it was just like boom, and I fell back, like just headshot. Like I fell like very quickly, and that's all I really remember.
What about the third time?
The third time I claim, right, and no one wants to believe me, but I remember us being at a playground, and I was on this bridge. You know, like those bridges that would move around, like that are at parks and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so I was on that, and someone was jumping on it, and I tripped. And I could have sworn my brother's foot again came barreling straight to my face with his shoe. So that's what I remember. And I could have sworn I broke it a third time. They're saying no. And I was like, all right, well, then I just was kicked in the face real hard.
Right?
And
Like
my nose hurt. But
I broke this twice and it feels like it's broke again.
but it's confirmed twice. But I could have sworn a third. They're saying no, but I remember a shoe to my face. Like that's so.
Really love shoe Justin.
Yeah, it's So I don't like feet. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I bet you learned a valuable lesson. Never tickle people's feet.
Yeah, no, I still do it.
You're like, I'll take another broken nose. Worth it.
Like, I remember I do it a lot to like my ex, and I would also, you know, do it to like my brother still. Like if he's just chilling there, I'm gonna like harass him, and I'm like, ah! He'll just get pissed at me, but you know, it's whatever. I didn't learn my lesson.
To not learn.
Yeah, lesson totally not learned for sure.
Who needs to learn when you can just keep doing it?
Exactly. You know, who learns nowadays, right? I mean, kids, if I were you, I would put away those books and no, I'm just kidding. I think it's pretty good to learn. What about jobs? Have you guys ever done anything essentially where it was very painful, like in the way, like maybe falling off a ladder or tripping on something, like you or in your years of working? Like Austin, have you worked retail at all, and have you had any sort of experience where it was like super awkward and you fell or you dropped something or you just experienced any sort of pain during your job?
There was one time that I can think of in particular. My first job was at a little convenience store, and they made fried chicken and fried foods for people for lunch and stuff. And every night you would have to clean those fryers. One time I didn't realize that somebody hadn't turned it off, so it had been going the whole day. And so I went to start cleaning it, and as I started cleaning it, it just like big old oil bubble or whatever you want to call it popped and just seared my whole arm. And that might have been the worst pain I've ever felt. It was like 100 and whatever degrees or however hot it is, and it just like felt like it was going to burn my arm off. It was pretty painful, but I just came running out of the back, like just shaking my hand, saying all the words that you can't say when you're working somewhere. And I'd probably been working there like 2 months. Thank God the person that was working with me was my mom, because she like took care of me and helped me out. But I was like, it was painful. I was like, I'd never messed with anything like that, and I don't think somebody would just leave that on for. See, they start cooking at like 7 a.m. and leave it on until 9 p.m. Like, that's a long time. So yeah, that was the worst, and it was kind of awkward because there was customers there and stuff. So after I was done, I could think straight again. I was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed. Like, we're in a small town. These people know who I am, and I just came running out like a fool, screaming with my arm flinging around, dropping bombs.
I think awkward works for the best stories.
Dude, it was definitely awkward. That's for sure.
I can definitely pull up a moment that wasn't necessarily a lot of pain, but it was like awkward because I had to ask the customer for some simple medical help.
Really?
Yeah.
Do tell.
I was working on a security panel, and I was kind of prying at something with my screwdriver because it wasn't coming off. And I took a second, and I'm looking at what I'm doing. I'm like, if I slip, this screwdriver is going to go directly into my hand. And then I'm like, well, I probably won't slip. It'll be fine. I get this part halfway off, right? It's just this little tab. We're talking about a little tweaker screwdriver. I mean, it's like an 1/8 inch wide at most. It's not that big. The little precision one. And the piece pops all the way off. Like, it didn't like open up like a door like it was supposed to. It just popped off and left. And guess where the screwdriver went? Directly into the palm of my hand.
Oh.
Like, you heard the noise of the screwdriver puncture my skin. It went that, like, it was in there. And then I looked at my hand, and like, as soon as it happened, I was like, ah! Like, that was my exact reaction when I was in the customer. It went in my hand. I heard the noise. I looked at my hand, and like, it took a second to register. And then I realized that the screwdriver is in my hand. Like, I could let go of this screwdriver.
Oh my gosh.
It's sticking out of my hand. And I'm just like,
No, that's so gross.
I'm not thinking. I'm just like, okay. So I popped it out, and you heard that noise again. You heard like the like, I pulled the screwdriver out of my hand.
Oh
and
no.
my hand, and like, I don't have it all the way open, right? I'm just looking at it. I'm like, huh, it's not bleeding. Okay, I'm good. I poked it a couple of times. Like, it felt like something went in my hand. It hurt. And then I'm like, cool. So then I opened my hand to like look around the other side, and all of a sudden I opened the hole, right? When I opened my hand all the way out flat. It was instant, just like gushing. I'm like, oh fuck. Customer lady, I was like, you have a Band-Aid? And she was like, yeah, it's in the bathroom. It's right over there. I'm like, can you possibly grab it for me? She had
so gross.
And she gets up, and I'm holding my hands like cupped together, like holding all the blood. And I just go to her kitchen, her sink. And luckily it was like empty, like not like she just did dishes or something. I'm like, can you turn this on? And I put my hand under it, and I let go of my handful of blood. And she was like, oh my God. And I'm just like, it's okay. It's fine. And meanwhile, like the hole in my hand is near my thumb, right? So I'm holding my thumb over the hole so it stops bleeding. And I'm rinsing all the blood off my hands. And like, there was a lot of blood. Like, I was like, how is it still coming out?
Oh gosh.
I rinse it all off. It's all good. And then she gives me a Band-Aid, just a normal size Band-Aid because it's not a big hole. So I move my thumb real quick. I put the Band-Aid on, and I let it sit for a little bit. and the Band-Aid just turned red. I'm like, God damn it.
Oh my gosh.
It won't stop. So I'm like, do you have paper towel or a rag or something? And it's like, yeah, right there. Can you grab it? Because I can't let go of this. So she gives me this big wad of paper towel. I just had to hold it on my hand for like 10 or 15 minutes. There wasn't nothing I could do about it. Just hold it there until like the blood clot started, you know? And then I let go and I kind of wiped off what was on top and rinsed it off again. And it wasn't bleeding this time. I opened my hand up. There was like, you know, it wasn't gushing. And I put another Band-Aid on it and I'm like, okay, cool. I go back over to the panel and I start putting it back together, right? Well, I didn't know it was bleeding again. And all of a sudden I look down and I look next to my foot and there's like 3 big drops of blood. I'm like, fuck.
Oh my gosh.
Back to square one.
There's like no pain. So I'm like, I grab that big wad of paper towel again. I rip this Band-Aid off and I'm holding it again. And I'm like, and you know, it's COVID. So we have like cleaning supplies and stuff in our van. So I go out to my van. I spray my hand down. I clean it up. It burned like a bitch. And then I made sure it wasn't bleeding again. And I put another Band-Aid on it. And then I came back inside. I have this big jug of cleaner. And I have, you know, some rags and stuff. I'm spraying down her floor. I'm wiping up her floor. And she's like, oh, no, you don't have to worry about that. It's okay. I'll get it later. I'm like, no, I have blood all over your floor. I'm going to clean it.
Yeah, I would hope. Can you imagine a worker just bleeding all over your floor?
Just
And
leave
you
a
gotta,
little
like,
evidence
mop
you were
it
there.
Right, exactly.
That would have
And
been so bad.
So I get it all cleaned up. And she's like, are you sure you're okay? Because that was a lot of blood. And like, meanwhile, after I cleaned her floor, I have, you know, like the shop paper towels, those thick blue ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I have in my bucket for my cleaning supplies. Well, I had 3 of them covered in cleaner and blood. So they were just turned red after that.
Oh my gosh, that's so
So
disgusting.
it was like a little much. I mean, the cleaner diluted the blood and made it and made it more, and the blood's like red dye, so it made it look a lot worse than it really was. But the first puncture, and I hadn't really realized how much blood was coming out. That first time that I took my hands over to the sink and then just opened up my hands again, now that was a lot.
So did you like get stitches or anything?
No,
Oh my goodness, that
I
is
just
so
I put
nasty.
the Band-Aid over it and I held some pressure on it. And like, I'm not really a bleeder. Like I can, like my bleeding stops easily if you hold something over it. Like, you know how some people you go get a shot and they have to put the gauze on you because you keep bleeding? Well,
Yeah.
me, you pull the needle out and just wipe it and I won't bleed anymore. Like that's it. So for my hand, it was just as long as I didn't open my hand all the way, like you know how you go high five someone, you have a big open flat hand.
Oh, yeah.
As long as I didn't do that, the hole would stay closed because it was like right near a crease in my hand. And then I put a Band-Aid over it and I just like had to let it be for a little
I
bit.
just had this picture in my like just brain where like I just pictured you just high fiving someone and just like blood squirting everywhere. Just like
Yeah. And high five, it's just like your hand explodes with blood.
It feels like he just high fived someone with like a bunch of ketchup packets in his hand.
The guy's like, man, you have really sweaty hands. Oh my god, that's not sweat.
He just faints.
His hands just like red.
That would be interesting.
Like I could imagine if she had like white carpets, Tyler, and you just
Oh
got
man.
I was very lucky it was slate tile. And I did not trip into the grout. It was like only on the tile. I got my cleaner and I got it all wet and I buffed it out and no more stuff everywhere. Yeah, I probably got a little bit lucky. right
Yeah,
there.
like man, dude, that's that's I don't have any stories I guess remotely close to that in my job.
It was
Like
probably-
going back to like when I was working at Kohl's, I worked in the shoe department for a while. And I would go to the storage room to like get shoes, right, for customers or whatever. So one time I was getting shoes and in our stock room, it was like at the time, it was like so messy. It was insane. So like boxes were just placed in not like a, you could just stack boxes, right? But they placed the boxes, whoever was working before me had like placed the boxes in the most awkward angles. And you're like reaching up there, right? And you pray that you don't have to get the boxes from the top section of the shelving. And well, had to get a box for a customer at the top of the shelving. And so like I started grabbing a box. And it was like in the middle. It was like, think of like Jenga, right? You're fumbling around, you're grabbing the box, and I start pulling it slowly. And I was like, okay, just pull this piece really fast, and it'll be just fine, Justin. Size 12, here we go. And I'm grabbing the shoe, and I start pulling it, and I'm like, all right, just a little bit more. And I start pulling it a little bit more, and I was like, last section, I gotta go fast. And so, like, I pulled it super quick, and, well, all the boxes tumbled on my face. like, I got buried with size 6, size 4, and I was having flashbacks, and I thought I was going to break my nose again. But anyway.
All those shoes flying at your face. You just thought of your brother kicking you in the face.
Boxes, you now have to put them all back in boxes.
Yeah, I was having Vietnam flashbacks, and the shoes were literally kicking me in the face. It's like they were coming down. And like I think one other sort of how would you say, like, pain that I've experienced while working there is like we would normally deal with like a lot of like cardboard boxes, and well, I got my nail caught on the side of a cardboard box, and it pulled all the way under my nail, so it was pretty much like a giant paper cut.
Those are the worst.
Yeah.
That I can vouch for. Cardboard cuts are kind of bad sometimes, and like what you're saying, I've had that happen where you ran your nail on the edge of a box and you feel it slice under your nail.
Yep.
That's the worst.
I've had it several times. I remember one point where I was with Junior.
To myself.
It's happened a lot at work, and then I remember one of the first times it's happened to me. I was with Junior, and we were shopping. We're walking around. We're like at a Myers. I don't know. We were just hanging out one day, and we just decided, hey, let's go to Meijer. We go to Meijer, and like I'm messing with the cardboard boxes where like I'm having like I'm like putting my finger above them, right, and like just like grazing my hand over them. And I just, like, end up cutting myself, and I just go, uh-oh. And Junior's like, what? I'm like, I think I cut myself. And then my finger just started bleeding like crazy all over this freaking cardboard cutout thing. And I was like, yeah, we should probably go. I told him. He's like, yeah, okay, let's go. And I just started there was a lot of, like, just blood for no reason on my hand. I guess I was a bleeder.
Well, you're just like, I'm used to it.
At the time, it was like, I wasn't. So I was like, it was like one of my first cuts that I've gotten with cardboard before. And I didn't even know that it could do that. And I was like, oh. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. But, all pain aside, I think we're a little bit past time for a break. So we're going to throw this over to our sponsors. We'll be right back. And I promise you guys, no more pain stories. And I'm sorry if it was a bit cringy. It's a nasty. Was not our goal whatsoever.
I'm probably more than enough cringe.
Yeah. So we'll change pace for you guys. But I hope you guys enjoy this word from our sponsor. Adam Stone, a unique and talented artist hitting the alternative rock scene. Listen to him as he jams his way into becoming a new hit artist.
But now you will, 'cause I am bringing you down. I'll take you off your chair, setting fire what's left from your hair. Someday.
Listen to Adam Stone singles for free on Spotify, SoundCloud, and YouTube.
Surrounding me. I don't know why I was chosen to live like this
follow your favorite ghost, Adam Stone, on Instagram and Facebook. Link in the description. And we're back from that word from our sponsors. I hope you guys enjoyed. I do want to remind you, please like and subscribe if you're on our YouTube. We know there's quite a bit of you listening on YouTube, and you're reoccurring. You're coming back from episode to episode to episode. And you know what I want to say? Thank you, first off, for listening and enjoying the podcast itself. But please subscribe and hit that notification bell. I know it gets old, but I want you guys to know when there's a new episode up. Because, again, it comes up every weekend. Oh, it used to be every Friday, but we're adjusting the schedule. Again, I am a college student, all right? Okay, so please forgive me. And there are a lot of home things. So we want to run as professional as possible, but there's a lot of stuff going on. But with that said, it's going to be up every weekend, so I want you guys to know when we're going up, how quickly we're going. Just get that notification. You can hop right in and listen to our new episode as soon as it's up. So again, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. Because we're building a community here, and how much more can you ask? It's free. And if you're listening over on Spotify, SoundCloud, and iTunes, we didn't forget you either. Please hit that follow button as well so you can get all the notifications of the latest episodes coming up every weekend. Again, and if you don't know, coming up soon is going to be Thanksgiving break for us, so we're not going to be posting a lot of episodes for, I think, just 2 weeks, but we'll hopefully be recording. But with that said, let's get right into it. Tyler, you had some fun stuff for the Apple to talk about, some new things, new developments.
I did, but I just wanted to remind everyone real quick, don't forget about our social media. We need followers there too, just like we have on our YouTube. So everyone on YouTube, get over there.
Link in the description.
There you go. But the thing I wanted to talk about with Apple, they have another new product. And it kind of feels like I'm Apple fanboying right now, because now I'm debating if I want this product. I don't know yet. Haven't decided. But it is the M1 chip. So Apple's been talking about this for a while, and they want to have their ecosystem 100% Apple. So now they have the MacBook Air, and they have the MacBook Pro 13-inch, and they have the Mac Mini, but they all have made their own processor. So, and I was actually quite surprised. I'm looking at it, and I went to their store tab, and the 13-inch starts at $12.99, which it's an Apple price. Everyone knows how that works. But then, when you go scroll down, here is 10th gen Intel Core i5. $1,800 rather. So Apple actually made this new laptop, and it's cheaper. So I was really surprised at that. So not only did they make this new processor, they claim that it has much better performance per watt, a much faster, well, they actually make a bold claim, the fastest integrated graphics. So, and if you've ever used a MacBook Pro, you really just don't get graphics horsepower unless you're plugging it into an external graphics box. But maybe now you won't have to do that as much. But just those prices, I was super surprised with the prices. I was expecting we're just going to keep everything super expensive and that's it. So I was pleased with that. But it went from being a processor, and then if you know anything about computers, you have the processor, that's your main unit that controls everything, and then your motherboard holds everything else. On your motherboard, you have your RAM, your other control chips that handle all the other processes on the board. Well, now they took all that and put it onto one chip, which is the M1 chip, and it's one of those things you call a system on a chip, an SoC. So it makes it a lot more efficient too. So rather than having to power your processor, your RAM, your graphics chip, and everything else, now you're just powering that SoC because it has your RAM and your graphics and everything built into it. So it's faster and more efficient. So I thought that was a really cool thing. Plus that price. I thought it was going to be something completely ridiculously expensive, and they actually made it cheaper.
That's kind of surprising. Apple doesn't go cheap very often. They're usually pretty expensive. I know whenever I got my MacBook
keep in
Air.
mind, you're still paying that premium. You're still paying over $1,000 for a 13-inch laptop, but it's closer to 1,000 instead of 2,000.
Yeah. So is that like that motherboard? Is it going to be like quite a bit smaller than now? Like, are they going to have more room? Maybe are they going to have a bigger battery in these new laptops? Like, what are they going to do with that space?
Yes, they were talking, and especially in the MacBook Air. The MacBook Air has this tiny little board in it, and most of it's all battery. And I'm trying to find the specs right now. I'm trying to pull it up while we're talking. But it was, here we go, up to 18 hours of battery life on the Air and up to 20 hours of battery life on the 13-inch. Now, to put that in perspective, the Apple 16-inch, which has a bigger battery because it's a bigger machine, but they haven't updated it to M1 yet. It's still running Intel. That one has 11 hours of battery life.
Yeah. You know you're not gonna really get that 11 hours either. Like,
it all depends on your usage case.
Yeah. If you're doing anything, like even if you're surfing the web, you're probably looking at closer to 8 hours, maybe.
Right. Like if you're telling me you have an advertised average 18 hours of battery life, depending what I'm doing, I'm going to expect somewhere around 12 to 15. And for the 20, I might expect somewhere from 15 to 18. Now, if you're video editing, expect like 6 and 10.
Still, that's pretty good considering, because editing videos, or I'm sure even watching YouTube, or if you're gaming on it, I don't know why you'd game on a Apple computer, but if you gamed on it, you're gonna drop down those hours significantly. But if you can still get 10 hours of battery life out of that, that's like nobody in the market can do that.
Right.
I don't think.
But nobody in the market is running an SoC.
Also,
everyone's running dedicated parts, everything. But now you have the M1 chip, which, just like Apple's phones, you have an Apple processor, you have an Apple motherboard, you have an Apple phone, you have Apple software. It's all made to integrate. Whereas the MacBooks, you had the Apple computer that was running everyone else's brand parts inside, and then you had it wasn't as efficient because you had to tailor to them. Well, now Apple can say, this is our chip, this is how we want it to work, this is how the software needs to work with it, and they can change everything about that chip and make everything work perfectly.
I'm just curious what the drawbacks are. I mean, it sounds incredible. Like, is there going to be limitations? Like, is that chip, like, if that chip goes out, like on a normal motherboard, if a chip goes out, you replace it. If that chip goes out, like a new laptop.
I guess that's another thing for Apple wanting to reduce their carbon footprint, because this makes parts easier and cheaper to manufacture, where they could recycle an old motherboard and reuse everything from it, and then all they have to do is put a new processor on it or whatever part went bad. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, when you had an Intel board in a laptop, that Intel board had a bunch of stuff on it that was all soldered, and they were all different chips. And sometimes in laptops, you have serial numbers to where if you change a part, the laptop's not going to work anymore. Apple's famous for doing that in their phones too.
As they just started doing that with their phones, like people who aren't Apple techies can't even work on the phones anymore. Like Best Buy, thank God Best Buy works with Apple and has like a contract with them or something where they can work on the phones. But I know it's put a lot of people in a little bit of a hurt.
You have to be certified by Apple, which is actually pretty easy to do. You basically just have to pass a test and fill out some forms, but it still makes it more of a pain in the ass. So I'm expecting the drawbacks to be okay. Obviously, like I have a MacBook Pro 15-inch from 2012. I can upgrade my RAM. I can change hard drives. I can do whatever I want inside that laptop. It's all modular inside. These new ones, what you buy is what you get. You cannot change them. There's no more adding storage. There's no more upgrading RAM. There's no more changing hard drives. Nothing like that. So you have to be really careful in the decision you make. You have to make sure you buy the right machine for what you need, because that is one big drawback. Where I bought the cheapest MacBook Pro I found on eBay. I found it used, and I bought this base model. Well, then I went and I upgraded the RAM. I put SSDs in it. I put a Blu-ray hard drive or a Blu-ray disc reader instead of a regular disc reader in it. And that MacBook was from 2012, and it was about 2015, 2016, and my MacBook from 2012 absolutely crushed everyone else's MacBook that they just spent $2,000 on, and I had about $900 in mine. You cannot do that anymore. That is not even a question anymore.
And I have a 2019 Air, and I mean that thing it cannot do a lot of things. It's just very limited. Hopefully this chip changes a lot of things, because eventually, of course, you're gonna have to upgrade a computer or laptop. Laptops shelf lives are very short. Oh, hopefully this chip will be really good. And
I'm kind of hoping that's going to be one of the major things that's going to be much better about it, because when you buy your iPhone, you can get 3 or 4 years out of your iPhone. They keep upgrading them, they keep them up to date, and they really keep them going. But the MacBook and all the other computer stuff, once the new processors came out and everyone started developing software for the new processors, and now it performs badly on yours because you got old tech. I'm hoping now that we're running Apple Silicon in the MacBooks like we are the phones, I'm hoping they can really have longer support periods for them now.
Yeah, that would be really nice. Make them last longer instead of having to replace them every few years.
I mean, you got to think some of these MacBooks are $3,000-$4,000. So let me get my money's worth, If
Exactly.
I'm paying $4,000, I want 4 years.
At least 4 years.
So, Justin, I've been telling you to hold off on upgrading your laptop because I know you've been wanting to. And right here, what I'm looking at on my screen, this is what I was waiting for. That 13-inch MacBook Pro. That would be with the M1 chip. I think this is actually worth upgrading for all those people that were waiting.
Yeah, I probably, because, I have a MacBook Air as well, and mine's even older than, how would you say, Austin's. I mean, I'm over here running editing software, recording software, and all this stuff, and I can feel that it's starting to run its course, like its life. Like this laptop
laptop has also given us a few issues along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's deleted episodes. I mean, it's really just it had its life, and I think part of it too is because Apple's always pushing these new software updates, and with every software update, they're making their older laptops what it feels like purposefully obsolete. Like it can't run these programs as well as it used to. Like I have one that I have to do now, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to make sure I plug in the hard drive and everything's saved. Because if not, like this is it's gonna suck, right? So yeah, honestly, hopefully, and I really like the idea that the new MacBook Pros have like that bar on it as well, and I think a size 13 for me is cool. So if I can, right, if I have the money, I totally might just. And when is this releasing for this new MacBook? Or
I want to say the 13 is actually out now.
it's out now, the one with the better chip.
Let me look. I would recommend the 512 gig storage option, which is unfortunately a little bit more expensive. That one is 1250.
1250. Okay.
So is that the Pro or the Air? Oh, that's the Air.
I think if I were to get a new laptop too, because I probably would save up, but I probably would also get my brother a laptop at the same time because he's got an older MacBook Pro and that thing's run its course too. So it's like, but I mean,
So
1250. That's about what I spent. I spent I spent 1,300 on
it's
this bad
actually
boy.
1,500 for the MacBook Pro. I gave you the Air price.
Oh, okay, 1,500. I was gonna say, I'm like, man, that's even cheaper than what the
Now,
Air was.
They haven't come out with the 16-inch one yet, and they haven't done the iMacs yet. But what I'm really curious for is what they're going to do for the Mac Pro, the big computer. Because when they do the iMac, that one, I mean, I'm assuming they're going to have more tiers. Like right now, they're doing the M1 chip. I would assume they would do something like an M2 and an M3, where maybe in the Mac Pro, the desktop style computer, they would put an M3 in and they would have ridiculous performance. But at the same time, the Mac Pro is also supposed to be able to accept graphics cards and PCIe equipment for more pro level usage. But the iMacs, that's another all in one computer, which is perfect for a system on a chip like this. And if they came out with an M2 or an M3, that iMac could show some real potential, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fairly interesting, and like having that new sort of development and update with the new Macs. Hey, I think it's gonna be worth the price, right? Like, and I also like their taskbar feature as well that they have with their new MacBooks Pros. That is, and I think that will really help, especially now that we're recording. I could put the record button probably because we record through Audio Hijack now that there's four of us, and I could probably put the record button right there on the little taskbar, so I don't have to hit it to continuously play, or maybe I could pause the recordings and stuff, and it's gonna benefit eventually, and it's sounds like a fairly interesting development with the new Apples.
Yeah. Just to give you guys some perspective here, it is the first personal computer with a 5 nanometer technology processor. That means it's very, very small and has a lot of transistors, actually 16 billion. But where they talk about numbers, now we all know Apple makes bold claims, but they're saying up to 3.9 times faster video processing and up to 7.1 times faster image processing. Everyone knows when you buy a MacBook Pro, you're going to be doing some kind of editing. Those are big numbers. That's a big leap in performance.
And even if it's even half of that, that's still a huge leap.
Right. Now,
why? That's a lot. That's a huge jump. That's like jumping from the original iPhone to an iPhone 6.
Well, part of it, I think, is one, they went from Intel to making their own. Whereas when you were on Intel, you had to run a 64-bit operating system that had a specific x86 file structure. Otherwise, it did not know how to use that processor. So if there's a more efficient processing type out there, you cannot use it on an Intel chip. It will not work. Well, now Apple is making their own processor to work on their own machine, so they can say whatever is most efficient. That's how they design their chip to be tailored for it. And I really like the design of the chip because it has an 8-core processor. But when you get an Intel processor or an AMD processor, however many cores on it, all of those cores do the same thing. Whereas this one, you have 4 high performance cores and 4 um, high efficiency cores.
Now, with that
So
said, are you going to be able to purchase this new processor like on the market, or is it specifically just for Apple products?
no, it's an SoC that is only in an Apple product.
Oh, wow.
Just like the Bionic chip that's in your iPhone. Like the new iPhone that I just ordered has the A14 Bionic. You cannot buy another brand phone with that chip in it. This is an Apple processor.
Like the chip that they have in the AirPods. Like you can only find it in AirPods. You can't find it in like those
Right.
other brand of wireless headphones.
Exactly.
Interesting.
This is, I mean, hopeful. I'm hopeful it's like a big, huge game changer, and this is like the beginning of another huge leap in tech. But I'm also still a little hesitant because I mean everything has its drawbacks. So I think I'm gonna sit back and because I'm looking at it great. I think I'm gonna sit and watch.
Because if we know anything about Apple, they don't say, "Oh, it does really, really, really good at this, and it's awesome at this," but they leave that "but" out. They don't give you.
Mhm.
But another thing I'm looking at here is up to 2 times faster CPU performance at 25% of the power. That's a big leap.
See, I can believe the 2 times processing power, computing power, because I mean you look at the new Xboxes and the new PlayStation 5. They're I mean they're nowhere near as high tech as these computers are. They're doing things that we never thought was possible. Like with the new Xbox, you can have basically 3 games open at once and
Right.
switch between them instantly. I mean, I've seen videos of people with their new Xboxes, and they'll hit the button to start it up, and it's already on, like it's ready to go. It's crazy how things have changed in such a short time.
Well,
Yeah.
like an Xbox or a game console, it's like let's compare it to a desktop computer. My desktop computer has a processor, it has RAM, it has a chipset controller, it has a graphics card. Everything is separate. I can take one of those parts out and I can put a different one in. Whereas on these laptops and in a game console, you have an SoC, system on a chip. In that SoC, you have the chip controller, you have the DRAM, you have the graphics processor, and you have the computer processor. It's all in one chip, where you don't have to have the motherboard link them all together. All the motherboard does is hook it to power, hook it to your input, get the output going to the screen, to speakers. The motherboard doesn't do nearly as much work anymore when you have a system on a chip. So that's another reason you can get way more performance, because when you think about it, just when, if you have a processor on this side of the board and you have RAM over here that's in an entirely different socket, and then you have on another part of the motherboard, you have your storage. Well, now just think, when I click on this file, okay, my processor now has to tell my chipset to get this information from the storage, load it in the RAM, and then the RAM has to access the L3 cache or whatever it is on the processor. All of that is now built into the same chip. way less processing, way less bandwidth to go through. It's already built into that chip. So you don't even have to. That's why it's so much faster. That's why the Xboxes can launch a game so fast, because everything is so much closer to each other. You don't have to like wait for it.
So do you think this will be a whole new wave where all of these other companies start doing this? Do you think Intel could be in trouble? Maybe AMD's in trouble? These companies that strictly make these chips. Do you think these but who else makes computers? LG. I don't know if they actually make
Well,
computers.
yes and no, because right now with the console, they use a different technology, and actually in your Xbox and your PlayStation, it's AMD products.
Hmm.
AMD makes the processing units for that console, and you usually see everything happen in the console first, and then it gets exploded in the PC world. So right now we're looking at, they just released NVIDIA 3000. Intel's still working on their newest chips. I don't know if they're released yet or not, but actually, AMD just released Ryzen 3, which is what's already in the consoles, but they released it to the PC world. Well, with Ryzen 3, they have their 5000 series processors, and there's a special processing change that they made in those, where now you can have what's called PCIe Gen 4, which we had on Ryzen 2000, but or Ryzen 2, I mean. But now they're utilizing the bandwidth of PCIe Gen 4 because you can have much faster storage now. Where now, instead of your processor saying do this, do this, do this, do this, your graphics card with the new AMD graphics cards that just came out, they can physically access your storage drive by itself and load everything it needs for the game to process the picture or any kind of physics, rather than the processor having to say, okay, this scene is coming, this is what I need physics done, and then hand it over to the graphics card, and this is what scene I need rendered, and then hand it over to the graphics card. Now the graphics card can say, I'm running this game, this scene's coming, it'll go straight to the storage and pull what it needs to render it. So that's what the Xbox is doing with the system on a chip. But now they're bringing that into the PC world too. So other people are going to start adopting this technology. When it happens, I don't know. Apple, I can say Apple is usually the last one to adopt something. But right now they're doing it first. So that did surprise me.
They've been, I think, I don't know whether they've had changes in CEO or anything. Something has changed, because I feel like in the last 3 years, Apple has gone from, I mean, somewhat innovative. Yeah. They're innovative in the Apple world, in a sense. Like, yeah, Androids have the micro USB charging cable, whereas iPhones have the Lightning cable, or that USB-C cable, or whatever. And now they've kind of shifted from that to actual this. If this is as good as they say it is, this is a really big deal, and they're going to be at the forefront of it, and they're going to reap the rewards of it for sure. Because I mean, Intel, this is basically all Intel does, and Apple beats them to the punch on something like this. That's pretty wild.
Right. Now you have to assume Intel has something up its sleeve hiding. They're working on something. You kind of got to assume that. But actually, where these processors come from is ARM. So ARM. ARM processors is a platform that allows you to build your own processor, build your own system on a chip. That's what Apple did here. They worked with ARM, and then they created their own, and now they're producing the M1 chip.
Do you think Intel and AMD probably already know enough about it, like they make they have an idea of how to make something like.
I'm
They already
assuming.
Well, I don't know about Intel, but AMD makes this same sort of chip for the consoles. Like I said, AMD has a system on a chip that's in the Xbox One X and that's in the PS5. It's the same thing we're looking at here from Apple. It has the graphics processor and the actual processing unit all built into the same chip that all runs off the same L3 cache. Now, the only difference is with the M1 chip and those chips is if you look in the Xbox, it still has the RAM outside of the chip, but it's very, very close.
I'm
Whereas
ass-
that one chip with Apple has it all built in.
I'm assuming that with normally, I think how competition goes is like one does it and then the next is gonna do it better. So who knows? Intel and AMD might decide now to be at competition essentially and start to develop these chips a little bit even like more refined than Apple. That's why
And that's
sometimes they say in the sort of like patented technology sort of world is like it's not always best to do it first because when someone else does it first, then someone else is always going to make that product better. So
right.
I think it might be
That's
one
a
of those
true
instances.
statement. So what it is Apple only designs for Apple. You know what I'm saying? So Apple is going to make the best system on a chip for an Apple device. But they're not going to go say, "Hey Dell, do you want to use our M1 chip?" That'll never happen. That's where AMD and Intel step in. Now AMD and Intel have the chance to make an SoC to work on an HP laptop or a Dell laptop, any of those brands, and they might have something similar built for Windows in another brand rather than M1 in an Apple laptop. So I would say it is going to come, but I was just surprised that Apple did it first. Usually Apple is the follower.
And speaking of all this sort of new developments, I mean, Austin, you mentioned something about the PS5s recently. A new development, new story on them.
Yeah, the PlayStation 5, Sony, I think, is kind of shit in the bed on this launch. So recently they've started shutting down a lot of these like online retail stores, these like pop-ups, because the new PlayStation 5, these like plates on them, you can take them off. It's super easy, and I'm assuming Sony's idea was you could take these off and then put on custom plates. Well, a bunch of online retailers popped up making these plates and stuff, and Sony has been shutting them down one by one, copyright striking them, suing them. I think there's a couple that are going to court about it because Sony, I'm assuming their plan is they're going to make these faceplates, but nobody else can make them. And I think that depending on how this goes, it could change a lot of things because if you can't make random faceplates for a PlayStation 5, does that mean you can't make stickers for it either? Like, I think it's gonna be a really hairy situation with that. And then they've also news came out that one of the chips that is in the PlayStation 5 is like really far behind on orders. The company that makes the chip for Sony is struggling. So they've had to cut back. I think they started out, they were going to make like 20 million PlayStation 5s. And then they cut back to 11 million, and now they're cutting 4 million more off of it. So there's only going to be 7 million. And the whole world.
It's going to hurt.
Yes. And I truly believe that console wars, if you want to believe in it, console wars are won in first 6 months of the consoles. That's when you're going to have your just incredible sales. And I think that this sets Microsoft is set up really well. Hopefully they don't screw it up. They could take this generation by storm. They already have the most powerful unit. They also aren't suing people for wanting to make plastic plates or whatever they're made out of for them.
I did hear about that as well. There was this company called Plate Station, where they were
Yes.
developing the custom plates and people were ordering them like ahead of time. And first off, they were gonna get sued because of the name PlayStation, just because they wanted it to sound similar to PlayStation. So then they changed it. I forget the name. I'm sure there'll be an article if you guys search it up. But now they're okay. So then, they changed the name, but they still were going to develop the plates for custom colors and stuff like that. And then Sony was going to take them to court again. And then so now they are doing custom decals, skins. So like just
I
normal.
don't understand why they say that's a problem. Because if anyone goes to this store and buys a plate for the PS5, doesn't that guarantee a PS5 purchase?
Right?
That's what you would- like. I feel like Sony should be like shoveling money towards these smaller companies that are doing this type of thing, or pick somebody to do this. Because if you think about it, like, okay, the decal, like the stickers have been a thing for a really long time. Plates on like different consoles and stuff, like only company that's really done this to a big degree was Nintendo with their like 3DSs and their Nintendo DSs and stuff like that. Now Sony has an opportunity because I could go out and buy those stickers for $10, but I'm like, I want to get an Xbox instead, and it's just a sticker. Whereas these plates are like something. This is like a tangible, decently sized object that you just bought. Like, I feel like in your mind you're gonna be more likely to go ahead and still get the PS5 because we all know it's a struggle to find one right now. You could buy the plate now, and you're like, oh, I can't find one. I'm just gonna wait, and I'm gonna get one anyways because I already bought a faceplate for it. And I think they've kind of
Right. And I'm actually looking at a different perspective right here too. And I'm thinking back when you were looking at the Xbox 360s, they had so many special edition Xbox 360s that had actual like different outside pieces that were, a special edition for different games. Like I had a Gears Xbox 360 with the oversized hard drives and the whole outside of the Xbox. It wasn't like a sticker, it was legitly made for the Gears game, had different graphic and everything on it. So now I'm thinking, okay, rather than let's try to sue this company, let's get rid of them. Why don't we say, hey, let's make some special edition consoles, because you can tell me right now, you're telling me there won't be a shit ton of people that would order the special edition Spider-Man PS5?
Yeah. And even aside from that, Tyler, I don't know if you remember because I still have one of the original 360s, but you could pop off that front faceplate, and I have a Halo one, and just swap it out.
Different ones. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like they could say, "Oh, you could go. This is my favorite game. Go to a PlayStation and get the graphic for your favorite game on your PlayStation." Or maybe just simply people don't want the giant white tower in their living room, so buy some black plates for it. That's
Yeah.
still guaranteeing you a purchase to sell your console because someone else is also trying to make accessories for the console.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I mean, I agree with Austin on this one that PlayStation's really screwing the pooch. Like they're just they
And then,
are going about it the wrong way.
Take it by storm anyway if we want to talk about console wars, because the Xbox is more diverse.
Yeah.
For the pro gamer out there, you have the Xbox Series X. For all the parents that want to buy their kids the new console for Christmas right around the corner, they can all go buy the Xbox Series what is it, S, the little white one.
That is, yeah. That's
And
great.
right there, we're going to have next generation consoles in every little kid's room. And
They're cheap.
parents aren't going to look at the PS5 versus the PSS. They're going to look at the 500 versus the 250.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, and the pricing, I mean, I'm sure if they're making a profit off of the systems alone, it's not very much in terms of Microsoft, because I mean that Xbox Series S is $300. That's less than the lower tier Xbox Ones were back in whenever they came out. I mean, Microsoft, I think, is really setting themselves up for a really successful generation, just because they're kind of Sony is doing what Sony is doing. They're just making Microsoft look better, because Sony right now, I think, looks like a huge cash grab. They're look very greedy, whereas Microsoft, I mean, you look at them, they're working with Nintendo. Like, they're talking about, I think, Xbox Live on the Switch potentially.
And you're getting what you pay for.
Really?
Exactly.
Wait, Xbox Live potentially on the Nintendo Switch?
That's been rumored for a few months now, and they also just announced that all of their exclusives are going to be on PC. Sony is looking at, like, I feel like they're kind of the Apple of
yeah.
They always have been.
They're like, we're going to make our stuff better, and we're going to keep it in, like, our little box over here. Like, we're not going to let you have Spider-Man on your console. We're going to keep our God of War.
And here's another thing about the PS5. All the new games, you can only play them to their full potential with that new controller.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the Xbox Series X, it comes with the new controllers, but then, like Justin, you have several controllers.
Yeah, I have like 4.
Someone comes over and you guys want to play a split screen game, you just pick up an Xbox One controller. Now you bought your PS5 and you want to play this split screen game or something like that with your buddies. Hold on, let me get 2-day shipping on an Amazon for another controller, because you can't use my old controller that I have 4 of.
Yeah, that's another big thing. I mean,
that's a huge thing.
Microsoft thought this out a lot. You can tell that they put a lot of effort into it, and it's really a change of pace in a sense from Microsoft, because I think most people will look at Microsoft as like this big global company that's in it for the money, whereas their gaming division, it looks like they're trying their best to make the best experience for gamers, the cheapest price possible.
For this generation, I really feel like when you go to buy a Microsoft gaming product right now, you are getting everything you can out of it.
Yeah,
and it's basically a little computer now. They've gotten so good at, like, they've got really good processors in them now, and all the other tech is like, it's getting to the point where we're going to come to a point where consoles are going to be just as powerful as these PCs.
I think we're going to see a lot more cross-platform coming to the ground, because before we didn't do much cross-platform because everyone said, well, you have a computer, it's unfair to play with you. Well, with the performance that we're talking about with these new consoles, I really think it's going to be more and more like that. I think we're going to see more co-op games again. I think we're going to see more cross-platform. Time will tell, but I don't see any reason not to bring all that out there.
Yeah.
And that's just going to fuel the entire gaming network. Everything is going to explode for that.
And on that note, I think we should throw it over to a quick sponsor break. I hope you guys enjoy this quick word from our sponsor. We'll be right back with some more interesting stuff. We told you we'll change the pace. All right, you guys enjoy this word from our sponsor. I often find myself wondering, what's next? What lies ahead? Where do I go? How far will I go? We often think about tomorrow. But what's the point? What's the point of not looking at what we have in front of us? Why not look to the present and be grateful? Why do you run from today? What difference does it make if everything you have today can be gone tomorrow? So I urge you, live for today. Search EBXYA on Amazon today to get all of your XLR cable needs. Link in the description. And we're back from that word from our sponsor. As usual, all the people we work with and all of our sponsors are going to be in the description below, so please click that little description, look in there, give some people a shout out. We got good old EBXYA if you guys are looking for XLR cables. Again, I can't talk about them enough. You've been using them for almost like 2 years now. Absolutely wonderful. As in regards to Adam Stone, check out his music. He's always got some new bops, new beats. If he gets a new song out, maybe we'll bring him back in the studio to talk about those exciting bits, as well as the good old BMMB animations. If you want to check him out, he's in the link in the description. He does all the visuals for the Amateur Hour podcast. Now, that aside, again, please subscribe and hit that notification bell and follow us if you're on all the other platforms. Anyway, now that that's aside, you got some funny new developments actually about, since we're on the topic of consoles, with the new Xbox. Is that right, Austin?
Yeah, so I witnessed some viral videos going around where an Xbox looked like it was on fire. And it not too long after that came out, everybody, of course, comments. First thing they do is they're like, oh, this Xbox sucks. It can't do what they're saying it can do. It's already on fire and it's day one. Well, turns out these kids that made this video decided that they were going to tape into their Xbox. Which it sounds like the most genius idea you could ever do is put liquid, basically, water vapor into your Xbox with all this tech in it. Well, what they did is they turned their Xbox off and they just went to town vaping and just blowing all the smoke inside of the Xbox. Well, these new Xboxes have a very, very powerful fan in them now. It's just one big fan and it just comes right out of the top. And so they turn that Xbox on, and the moment they turn it off, all of that smoke just gets sucked right out. So, of course, it makes it look like the thing's on fire. And Microsoft had to come out and say, in a tweet, they said, I can't believe we have to tell you guys this, but don't vape into your Xbox. Come on. Well, I feel like people go to such lengths to try to make Xbox or PlayStation look bad. Why would you buy an Xbox just to vape in it?
Oh, right.
That's something more or less like a stoner would do,
Yeah, I will say electronics are definitely more durable than you think. But still, you just spent almost what was it, $600 after tax and all that crap, and you're going to vape into it. You're going to soak the inside of it with not just water, whatever other chemicals that are possibly corrosive or whatever that's in your vape.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
it's going to be like an oily mess inside of your Xbox.
Well, and I mean, they say that your Apple Watch is waterproof, but it's like, you really need, if you don't have to test it out, why test it out? Right. They say, okay, you can get your Xbox a little damp, okay, well, you probably shouldn't take it into the shower with you.
You just go swimming with it.
That's my thing. I just bought this brand new phone. It has this crazy water rating on it now. It's supposed to be really resilient. I'm not going to take it swimming. I'm not going to do that.
I'm just going to drop it in the pooper now.
I just don't understand why, it's got to be, a few things running through my head right now. These kids that made this video, either A, didn't buy the Xbox, their mom bought it for them, or a parent or something like that, grandma. Or B, they're just stupid. There's no other, it's I just don't understand why you do it. First off, if you don't like Xbox, and the whole reason for the video was to make Microsoft look bad, you just spent $600 to make Xbox look bad. So, okay, you gave them a sale to make them look bad. Okay, well, whatever. Or You just want to vape into an Xbox? I
Yeah,
just don't understand.
I don't get the thought process behind that.
Wait for your friend to buy an Xbox and tell him you have a great idea.
Yes.
Exactly.
Don't do it on your own.
What
And
an
I've
idiot.
also I've seen just on the topic of people doing dumb stuff to their new Xboxes. I saw a video last night where a guy it was the brand new Xbox Series X decided to see if it could survive being ran over by a truck. Obviously, an Xbox is not a stress test to get run over by a 2-ton truck.
What?
I mean, things people do. I maybe it's because of coronavirus. People are getting bored. They're trying to spice up their life. But like, I think that there's some way cheaper ways to spice up your life than running over an Xbox. Go bowling, something.
Oh my gosh! Like
If you just wanted to waste your money, I would have came and gave you $400 for that Xbox.
yeah,
Exactly.
I would
You
have
didn't
gave them nothing and just asked for it for free if they were just gonna smoke into it.
as they order. See, this is what I would do. I'd order one off Amazon or something, and then I would return it and be like, "Yo, you guys gave me this Xbox. It's destroyed."
Yeah, it's smoking.
and return the one that I just ran over with my truck.
Oh my gosh!
To Amazon, I ordered something one time. I ordered a suitcase and it got obliterated in transit. Like it was one of those hard side ones, and like I don't know what happened. Honestly, the guy probably ran it over. It was destroyed. So I just returned it, and they had discontinued. It was like an Amazon product. It was like their Amazon Basics line or something. They returned it, gave me a refund, and then sent me an email saying that they would pay for me to get a new suitcase, basically.
Nice.
And they didn't care what the brand was. And so I got a free suitcase out of it.
Did you look for like a really nice one?
I think the one I got, I mean, is okay, but it was like $100 suitcase where the one that I was originally buying was like 75, 80. They were like, all right, pay for it. So I was like, okay.
That's awesome.
I mean, it just blows my mind. People, I think it goes to show that Xbox has taken a slight lead, and that's why people are doing all this stuff. Is they're like, we need to make Xbox look bad, so we're gonna run over an Xbox with a truck because that'll prove things to people.
Either that or just people are weird. I mean, what can
That's probably the real answer. People are just weird, and
we live in a strange time. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, they do it for the views.
Yeah, they do it for
They
yeah.
make enough views on that video, and you're monetized, or you have ads or sponsors. You probably made more than $600, but still,
They
for
do
me,
it for the
I can't
TikTok.
afford that, so I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I
Maybe
would.
in the future, we'll be destroying consoles one day.
Yeah, right. If it's very lucrative business, like why not? If I'm gonna make 10,000 out of destroying a $500, Xbox, then hey, let me buy all the other Xboxes, make all the poor kids feel bad. Like,
well, and the other thing, it's like you see these people doing these things to Xboxes, and you're like, if you're somebody that wants one, you're like, oh, that Xbox that just got ran over by a truck, I could have had that. Like, why? It could have been in my house, sitting nice and dust free, but no, now it's destroyed.
now it's absolutely obliterated.
Life of that Xbox is over. It's wild. Speaking of Xbox, Justin, we've been spending a lot of time on Xbox recently playing the new COD. And I was a little curious what your thoughts are on it. I know we have a little bit of a different idea of what we think of it.
So thoughts on the new Call of Duty? Call of Duty, Black Ops, Cold War, something else longer in the title. No, I'm just kidding. So my thoughts on it. I so far have enjoyed the campaign. I haven't beat it completely. I'm really rushing to try and beat it right away. 'Cause I know their campaigns are pretty short as well. So as of recent, and this one seems to be relatively short as well.
As long as
Um,
your Xbox doesn't blow smoke while you're playing, you should be good.
Well, here's the thing, Tyler. You're gonna enjoy this. There's been a lot of issues with so far the new COD where it's turning people's consoles off, and
It's probably asking for too much power.
yeah, it's happened to me. But I'll get into that in a sec. So let's get into the so far the gameplay and everything. I love the new zombies, the new iteration of zombies, and what they're trying to do with it. It makes me feel just all warm and fuzzy inside because it feels like, okay, well, Call of Duty's not necessarily keeping to the same strict old rules of how all the other Call of Duties were. They're changing it up, and I enjoy that quite a bit. Also, with that said, so I enjoy zombies. Warzone is its own separate entity, so I won't even touch on that. And as for the multiplayer, so I have mixed feelings about it. There's parts of it where I enjoy the arcadey sort of feeling of the gameplay when it comes to multiplayer, because I'm like, really does it best. Call of Duty, I guess it sticks to that arcade feeling when it comes to multiplayer. But I don't know. There's the new system that they've added for leveling up guns where it's just based off of objectives. I think it's kind of stupid because now you're just forced to play like domination or
Breakpoint 2. I wasn't a fan.
what happened?
They did that in Breakpoint 2. I wasn't a fan. But they allowed you to turn the feature off.
Yeah, that was a new update that where it's not so much like RPG. But anyway, when it comes to this sort of style, now leveling up the games and only doing objective-based things, it kind of makes it annoying because then I start playing domination, and then there are a lot of instances where I was even watching a bunch of streamers last night, and they're pretty decent gamers, like pro gamers. They're Nade Shot, Scump, and Z Laner. I was watching them, and they were even getting spawn trapped in these public lobbies. Like, it was just insane. And I think also another thing I want to touch on is like the close quarters combat for that game. It feels so messy. Like, I don't know if it's like the aim assist or what, but like you're getting pulled sometimes in certain directions. And certain guns just don't really fit the MO for close quarter combat. And I don't know, I find that kind of ridiculous. So I'm a bit iffed out with this new COD. I enjoy the zombies and I enjoy the cooperative, but for multiplayer, I mean, I'm not saying it's not a solid game, but I don't know. I've been having issues with the multiplayer, and I did want to touch on they've been actually it's the Call of Duty Black Ops game actually has been, and it's confirmed that they've been having cross-platform networking issues because I also again was watching those streamers last night, and they were having issues connecting to their other friends and stuff. So that is another unfortunate thing, and again, it's crashing consoles unfortunately as well. Probably older generation, but that's my take on it.
Step into the PC world.
That's my take on it.
I think the problem is first thing I think that everybody's not taking into account that we've got this game definitely has its problems. So did I was watching a few TikToks and YouTube videos last night about it because I wanted to see what other people were thinking because I knew we were going to talk about it today and I thought we would. And I've noticed that a lot of people like real quick to bag on the game, and I understand, when you buy a game, you want it to be a free and all that stuff. But I think people are forgetting that basically half of this game's production life was during the coronavirus, and I think that we're seeing issues that it has created, because I mean, you think a lot of these studios go back into their office. I mean, these places are in California, and California has been pretty shut down. And so a lot of
both sides of that argument. Like, I know where you're going with this one, because yes, there's not as many people like in studios really working. They might be working from their workstations at home, stuff like that. Maybe they haven't been able to do as much testing. But the thing is, for me, I could understand a few bugs, but are they releasing the game for the same premium price?
I'll see that. So here's I get that side too. I think the only issue is that Call of Duty's the one thing that it's a staple every single year, and I think that probably in terms of like having a complete game, it probably would have been a good idea to wait a few more months and get these last few bugs out, because some decent bugs right now. But I think the problem is I think that they would get more flack for not releasing the game than they are getting for having the bugs they have. Because I mean, either way, it's Call of Duty. It's going to get on every single year, and
that I can probably agree on, because there are some Call of Duty fans out there. If you have a late release, you are going to get shit on.
and they pushed it back. I mean, last year's Call of Duty came out in October. This one, where I get first week of November, and our second week, and it's now coming out. I mean, people are already complaining about that. So I think people need to remember that it's Modern Warfare had its problems at the beginning too. Like, the balancing of guns was really, really bad at the beginning of that game. There was also some cross-play issues too, but people kind of forgot about it. Now, a lot of things that we could do when that game came out, we can't do because of COVID. So it's just highlighting those problems even more than they were before. So I think that's something people have to take into account whenever they're talking about it. Because I mean, I saw a video where this guy said, "This is the worst Call of Duty ever," blah, 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 blah. And it's like, all right, you might not like it right now, but like, we're 4 days in, like, pump the brakes a little bit, because
you do have to give it time to mature, and that's with any game launch. No game releases perfect.
Yeah, not anymore. I mean, in the age of being able to send out an update for a game and fix issues, most of these games, I would say, honestly, I'd probably 100% of games that come out nowadays are not complete at launch. There's some type of issue that they have to fix.
Right.
I think that
it's definitely more complicated now too. I mean, just think about it. The game that we're releasing now has to run in 4K over 60 frames per second smoothly.
Yeah.
That is not an easy feat. And that's just one of the basic things for the game. If you want to talk about all the rendering, all the different kind of systems it has to run on, all the different hardware it has to run on. I have a computer that's 5 years old. My computer has to run that game just as good as the rich kid neighbor with his brand new computer. And also, if you're thinking about Microsoft, Justin's Xbox has to run it just as good, and the Xbox Series X has to run it just as good. Whereas 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it wasn't that complicated.
Yeah. I mean, it's way more complicated. And another thing people don't think about is Modern Warfare worked on that game for 3 years. Now, I have no idea whether they knew they were going to work on it for 3 years, or because before it was a 2-year cycle, so every other year these publishers were making the game. They were just flipping each year. We have no idea. Like, they either found out like mid that year where the other company, where Treyarch made their game, and Infinity Ward found out halfway through the year, we're going to a 3-year cycle. So they're ahead of time. So this game had way more time. Whereas Black Ops, originally it was supposed to be 3 years. Well, something happened with Sledgehammer, the company that was the third producer of the Call of Duty games, and so then they were like, nope, they're not making it now. Treyarch, you're making a game in a 2-year cycle again, and so I think that I expected there to be a lot of bugs, so my expectations were, I thought the game would be good, and I still think it's going to end up being really, really good. I just think that they were crammed in, and then the coronavirus really affected them a lot, and so it's caused a lot of things to go wrong, but I think that at the end of the day, they will fix them. It's just going to take a little bit of time, but
and that's just our world now. There's just more complication right now than there ever was.
Yeah, and in terms of my like personal opinions on it, my opinions differ a little bit, not as much as I thought from Justin's. I think that the zombies is pretty good. I'm an old school. Black Ops 2 zombies is the peak for me. I don't know if that can ever be beat. Just the maps, play style, the movement, it just felt like zombies. This one's really good. I like it a lot. The point system change is a little weird, but I can get used to it. It's just a little bit of a little spice it up kind of thing, and I like the map is cool. I think they need to do something about these dogs that they made. They're a little overpowered, I think. They've got a few glitches, and I think that might be the problem where they're jumping through things and stuff. But I think the zombies is good. I haven't played the campaign, but I've heard that it's really good. I mean, Call of Duty's campaigns are usually pretty good. They're just, like Justin said, a little short. And then multiplayer, I personally like the multiplayer. I think I'm not a big Modern Warfare multiplayer kind of guy. I think it's you die too quickly. And I think that this COD's multiplayer is like a mix. And I like it in some ways, but I don't like it in others. I think it's not quite the old Black Ops style where you take a lot of bullets, but it's also not the Modern Warfare style where you die instantly. It's like a mix of the two. Multipliers on like where you hit somebody changes things and stuff. But overall, I mean, I think that what's come out is a more, compared to the last game, the balancing of guns is a lot better. You still have the problem of explosives, like with Claymores in the last one. Explosives are a little powerful in this game. But overall, I think it's good. I like the maps. I think they innovated a lot. There's a map where you swim, and water is, what I understand, one of the most difficult things to program and create in a game and make it look good. So I were to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10 right now, I'd probably give it a 7.2 because I think there's room to improve, but improvement there.
Gotta add the point too.
Yeah, I would.
It's definitely getting a C right now. It's passing. I think after this first big update that comes out, whenever it comes out, where they'll do one before they do the first season or what. I think when that update comes out, they'll fix a lot of things that people are concerned about, because you can play test a game. Like for some games, it's easy to play test. I think for Call of Duty, it's a little bit more difficult because it so strictly relies on connection to the game, because they don't have dedicated servers. Like Warzone, I think, has dedicated servers, but Call of Duty itself, like the multiplayer, they don't have dedicated servers unless they did that recently. So it relies so heavily on connection, and you can't. It's hard to play test something like that. I mean, it's probably possible, but I think it's harder to play test. So like some of these bugs that are happening, or some of these mechanics that are occurring, are more difficult to create. But I think that they'll polish it up a little bit here in not too long, and I think people will hopefully like it. I'm just concerned that people are just gonna hate on it to hate on it.
Right.
That's the popular thing to do.
Yeah.
And what you were mentioning, not having dedicated servers and stuff, that's actually a big point too. Because there is a game that me and Justin wish we had more time to play it, But anyway, it's Astroneer. That game doesn't, well, it has dedicated servers now, but we don't play that way. We just host off the Xbox. And when Justin's hosting off of his Xbox, a console typically only has enough power to run the console. Well, if you're hosting a game, you're running your game, you're rendering your scene, and you're also rendering for the other person too. And you have to keep track of where each other is in the map. It's a lot of processing going on. So that's the same thing with the Call of Duty. If it's not well optimized, which this would be getting fixed in the future with updates and stuff, but if I'm hosting the game on my computer with a gigabit connection, really high upload, and all the horsepower that my computer has, you guys with your consoles logging in with me, we would probably have no issues. But if you are, you have AT&T, you're running on a DSL connection, you have an older generation Xbox One, you're going to see a lot of issues there, especially if the game isn't well optimized.
Yeah. And I don't think that most of the things that people are complaining about, they're like small things that I think are probably easy to fix, but they hurt the overall experience. Like someone was saying, I think they need to do an update with the aim assist because it's just a little funky. I don't know how to explain it. It's just not. It's not the usual aim assist. There's something off about it.
Yeah,
and so it's
too hard.
Different.
It'll whip you too hard sometimes, and you're like, whoa.
I honestly think part of the problem is been listening to PC people talk about how overpowered the aim assist is, and I'm curious, and I wonder if maybe we're trying something new to fix that, maybe, and so that's why it's just a little bit clunkier than normal.
It could be. I mean,
that would just be me guessing.
It's just it's wacky how things sort of work. And anyway, I think honestly, I mean, I've talked about this before because I wasn't gonna get the new Call of Duty, but then I was like, all right, well, the beta was, the multiplayer was pretty okay. Like, why not? Like, feels a little bit more arcadey and less try-hardy. Like, why not? But I mean, you still got the try-hards, right? But with that said, I mean, I think with Call of Duty itself, I mean, I know it's a game like every year, wow, like it's super cool, but I think I'm slowly I'm getting tired of it. Like I'm really excited I think they are doing amazing with this this battle royale. How would you say iteration? I mean, I do have some hot takes. I mean, like, I think they should take out Gulag. That's just me. I'd like classic Battle Royale when it comes to that, not having to come back. Because sometimes the dumbest things can happen in that Gulag, but that's just my take. But with that said, I think I'm really excited with what Call of Duty's going to do with that, because it's going to carry on from game to game to game. So I don't know. I think it's exciting. It's exciting to have that sort of iteration where all things are coming together to make this big, awesome, fast-paced, for the most part, royale. But there's also things they could fix with that too. Like it has its bugs as well. But
I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm wondering if maybe part of these last two games have both their fair share of like bugs and issues and just mechanic issues. I'm curious and wondering if maybe issue is not that, because Activision at the end of the day gets to tell these publishers what they're doing, or these companies what they're going to do. It's just like with microtransactions back in the day. Activision were like, you're going to do them whether you like it or not. I'm wondering if they have severely hampered these teams by putting so much into the Warzone aspect, because yes, it is the most popular aspect right now, and this is the first time ever that I know of where the publishers or the producers are working together on one project and one game. I'm wondering if they put so many eggs into that basket that they've depleted these other two baskets, and so the multiplayer and zombies for Treyarch is suffering a little bit.
That
I'm
could
curious.
be a possibility if they were just not putting as much focus in other areas as they needed. That would definitely be a possibility.
And I think maybe it also came down to they had a plan, just like anybody did this last year. They had a plan. It could have been that they were going to hire more people. They were going to expand the size of these Treyarch and Infinity Ward, or they were going to make a whole different publisher to work with the teams to help do Warzone to incorporate aspects that each of these companies wanted. But with coronavirus coming in and really dampening everybody's situations, maybe that idea got cut or put on the sidelines until everything goes back to normal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many aspects to these last two games. It's just, I think I like to think about things like a little bit on the it's real easy to be like, oh, this game sucks from my point of view, but I think it's really important to look at from the company's perspective, because you got to understand, working in my industry, it's real struggle. A lot of things that would normally be on track to be done aren't being done and stuff like that. So I think perspective is very key when talking about these things.
Yeah, it's very true. And I think they should get a more dedicated team when it comes to working with Warzone. Because there's a lot of, I think, sound bug issues that they got to fix and other bugs that have been kind of running through and running rampant, and the banning of people who love to cheat because they suck at the game. Yeah, there's a lot of things that Call of Duty's got to fix, and I really hope they do. And I hope it's not a publisher issue with the Activision where they're just sort of... I think, too, part of the reason as to why they're having so much issues because possibly because the publisher Activision is pushing these individuals to pump out a new game every year. And I think if Call of Duty would just take a quick breather, right, and focus on singular project, let a game run, even if they wanted to let Black Ops run for a while before developing Modern Warfare 2. And giving it a year's break, I think you would see such a huge difference in probably all the mechanics when it comes to Cold War and Warzone, that it would be nice for them to focus on those projects.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because when you think about games like GTA, how much better did that game get every time they released? Now, GTA has some pretty big gaps. But the same rules apply. If you release every year, is it going to be small update, a little bit different, okay, cool, different maps, whatever. But then if you wait 2 or 3 years, you're going to be like, whoa, better physics. Whoa, this got way, everything's going to be 3 years for technology are big jumps. So there'll be a lot more hype. But then you'll have all the people that are like, I don't want to wait that long for the game, or, oh, we need a game now. This company sucks. They take too long to release games. Because honestly, I'm really, really waiting on another GTA, because that would be really nice.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I gotta think about the company. I mean, you can't lose traction if you have an audience that's pushing you, and then all of a sudden you slow down. You are going to affect everything like that too.
Yeah,
I think that perspective right there is basically explains their Call of Duty situation. I don't think that they have. I don't think that they can do that. I think that if they were to go and do that, they would give one of these Battlefield, at the time Fortnite, one of these other first-person shooters or third-person shooters with this battle royale mechanic, or even Rogue Company. I think if they took a year off, they would end up losing some of their hype train, in a sense, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, but oh, good.
I was just gonna say, because Call of Duty is just like Christmas. You get one every single year. You're super excited for it. I think that if you go a year without, you look at you look at GTA 5, for example. I mean, yes, it's still making a lot of money. But now the problem that they're running into is that the game has gone on since 2013. We're now going on year 7, about to start year 8. And I think that's such a long time to try to hold on to one piece of media, if you want to call it that. They've created a lot of hype, and that's Rockstar's thing, is they create so much hype for their
That's
games.
my thing, that the game is so old, but there's still a full lobby every time you log in.
Yeah. I mean, but think of a game like CSGO, right? That's been a game that has been going on for years and is still one of the most competitive games that is out there. And people have a crazy fan base over it. And I think what Call of Duty's doing is right in regards to, we're going to be cross-platform and we're going to give all the new content updates for free. I think that is a great way to sort of solidify and like bring in and just make strong all your followers, is like bringing the community together. Now, I think if they would, now I'm not asking like 5-8 years, but I think if they took a good year, it would be a solid enough to focus on like new Warzone iterations, right? Rather than doing like events or something, they could focus on building a new map for Warzone, as opposed to just one map. You have to wait a whole nother year to get another new map. I think those sort of things they would benefit from, as opposed to, putting out a new game and getting all the cash grab from that, which is what they're doing too. Is like you can start to feel it. That's like, okay, well, here's a new game, here's a new game, here's a new game, and that's what I like. I kind of think I do like about Battlefield is that they don't drop one every year. And I think after they got so much backlash because they dropped Battlefield 5, maybe right
2
away.
years, maybe.
Yeah, like 2 years, maybe barely a year's time. And then they're like, okay, we're going to drop a new Battlefield. And as soon as they did that, look how bad it was. Like, it just was garbage. Like, their campaign and everything for it was just horrendous, that everyone hated the game. I mean, I got the game simply because it came with my Xbox. I wouldn't have purchased it. And in playing it, like, it was just such hot trash that I was so disappointed.
When you put it that way, you're like, this is absolute shit.
Yeah. But, like, that was their attempt at really getting a cash grab and just, like, trying to, all right, we're going to try and pump it out right away. I think certain games need that little break. And same for, I think, like, Watch Dogs, right? Like, they put out a new one, and then they waited. The second one came out. People thought it was a little bit better, but it still wasn't what they want. Now they release this third Watch Dogs, and a lot more people are interested in the innovations that they made. So I think Call of Duty just needs to just take a step back for a little bit before they go so much where they trip over their own feet, essentially, right? Like, you can only run so long. You can only sprint so long before you have to take a break, maybe walk a little bit. And it's going to catch up to them. Like I'm saying, with this new COD, it might hopefully be a waking up moment for them to be like, okay, well, let's focus on it a little bit more and quit trying to sprint to the next, cash grab.
I think we also gotta remember that Call of Duty, it's yes, Call of Duty comes out every single year, but in reality, it's 2 franchises under one umbrella. You've got, because no other game is there 2 companies that make the same game under the same umbrella, or different games under the same umbrella. Because you look at it, Black Ops is Treyarch. It's a completely different experience than Modern Warfare is with Infinity Ward. So realistically, we are getting that gap year or gap years. Problem is that big fat Call of Duty is stamped on the top of it, so it doesn't look like we're getting a gap year. And I don't think that we'll ever. The only way we would ever see a time where Call of Duty takes years off, like the franchise itself, we get a Call of Duty in 2023 and we don't get one until 2025. I think the only way that would happen is if Call of Duty reduces in popularity. And as of right now, I just don't. Warzone created a new hype for the game, and it's kind of blown up again like it was back when we were really young. So I don't see it happening anytime soon. Could it happen? Maybe. I think just all depends on the next generation coming up, because I think another thing we think about is the fact that we've experienced so many Call of Duties. Like, our opinions of how the game is probably way different than kids our age, when we were Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3 came out, like we were middle school, high school age. Like, how do they feel about these Call of Duties? I think that's the audience that they need to pay attention to, not necessarily us, because I mean, let's be real, we're aging out right now. I mean,
it's true, but I think then that's when I start to say that I'm starting to mature out of Call of Duty. I think, like I said, I like this Warzone iteration. I'm excited for it. It's been one of the coolest Battle Royale games that I've ever played, and I've played PUBG. I haven't played Apex, but I've played a little bit of Fortnite and here and there. But like, I think this Warzone iteration really cool. I like that direction. But with Call of Duty itself, I'm just aging out of and just losing interest in what they're doing with their multiplayer. I'm kind of over it at this point. For me, it just, it's rinse repeat sort of deal. And I think probably the last Call of Duty I would get is Modern Warfare 3, because I know they're rebooting them. So they got Modern Warfare 2. I'm for sure gonna get that, and then Modern Warfare 3. And that's the same thing I did when Modern Warfare 3 first came out too. After that game, I stopped playing Call of Duty because I was getting bored of the same old with the multiplayer and even the campaign. And then they started getting weird with it too, right? With the space and all this stuff. And I don't know. I think that's what's going to end up happening. I think that's what's going to end up happening for me. I think that's the game plan. I'm going to buy Modern Warfare 3, and as soon as I get that, I'm only going to play Warzone after that and just kind of let the franchise go, because it's like I want to play games like that have a lot more substance to their multiplayer and their campaign, like Halo, and you know, the new Halo's coming out, and you have probably other games to come that are going to be absolutely amazing and spectacular the way they're developed. So I think it's going to be time for me to kind of set that down and just be like, yeah, no.
But that'll be the time where all of these kids that are playing this game that were, you know, in middle school and high school, that'd be about the time when they're in college. And I feel you in that sense. I think that probably never the Modern Warfare 3, probably if they do one more Black Ops after that, that'll probably be the end for me, because you think that's 5 years away. That's close to 30. So at that point, it's already that's probably even a pipe dream to think about too, is you think a lot of things can happen in 5 years. Kids, whatever happens. So, and I think our issue, like, it's just a interesting one where we're just at that age where it's just, we're not the core audience anymore, and so they're not really looking at what we want. They're looking at what these younger kids want, and so it's frustrating. I feel the frustration, but it's just, I mean, it's like you said, it's like you get bored of it and you stop buying it, or you continue buying it, you just play it, you complain about it a little bit, or you just accept it. And I think that's what our demographic is struggling with, because Call of Duty became what it is from us.
What we need to do is have games where you have to swipe your ID to play them. So then we don't get stuck with a bunch of 14-year-olds in a lobby that shouldn't be there anyway, that ruined the game.
Don't give him any ideas, dude. I started playing when I was 14, bro.
I know, but
Yeah.
look at those assholes that are out there now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Those
that would.
people that are out here now are like, oh my god, will you stop?
But I think with that said, you know what? We got a lot in today. Episode's definitely going to be running long, but I mean it's with good intentions. We have the wonderful Austin here. I want to say Austy, but that's the nickname I give him. So if you ever hear me called, but yeah, we have the good old Austin. I mean, welcome to your first official episode. I know you were on as a guest before twice, but you're officially on board, and it's fantastic to have him here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave a comment if you like Austin. Leave a comment. Let him know. Tell him, hey, we want to hear I like Austin, or Austin's the GOAT. All right?
Up those numbers now for me.
Yeah, throw some love, shout out. And you know what? What do you guys feel about COD? Are we phasing out of it? Are you guys phasing out? What is your feelings on it if you're playing on it? What is your feelings about the new Apple M1? I want to hear. Leave those comments in the description. Please, oh, please, oh, please. Again, we want to have this engagement with you. We want to comment back, talk to you guys, about these issues and sort of things. And we want you guys to also converse with yourselves, because that's what the amateur is about, conversation. But with that said,
about social media, spark up conversation on social media.
yeah, with that said, I was going to say, please go in the description. Follow us over on social media. Follow us on all of our platforms. You can listen to whichever you prefer. And we got a Twitters and Instagram. So see you guys there. Again, thank you so much for listening. We love you. Bye.